Authorities have recovered what appears to be human remains in a desert area located about 15 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home, immediately raising questions about whether the discovery could be connected to the missing woman. The recovery has naturally drawn attention because of the distance from her home and because investigators are still working to determine what happened to her. But at this point, the available information gives a much more definitive answer about the remains themselves. According to law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the investigation, the bones found in the desert are definitively not Nancy Guthrie. The Pima County Sheriff has said there is so far no indication that the bones are connected to Guthrie. That statement is important because the discovery of what appears to be human remains in the area could easily lead to immediate speculation. However, authorities are not making that connection. Instead, the information coming directly from law enforcement makes clear that the recovered bones do not belong to Nancy Guthrie. The discovery, while significant in itself, has not provided investigators with the answer they are seeking in her case. The remains were found in a very remote part of the desert, according to law enforcement sources with direct knowledge. This was not an area that could simply be reached by driving directly to the location. One source described the site as being accessible only by a long hike, emphasizing just how isolated the area is. That detail helps explain the circumstances surrounding the discovery and why the location is being described as extremely remote. Even with the discovery of what appear to be human bones, investigators have not found a connection between those remains and Nancy Guthrie. One source put the conclusion in especially direct terms, saying that the bones are definitively not Nancy Guthrie. That wording leaves little room for ambiguity about the central question surrounding the discovery. Although the remains initially attracted attention because they were found in the desert, relatively close to Guthrie's home, the information from those familiar with the investigation indicates that the remains are not hers. The discovery therefore does not provide investigators with the resolution they would need to locate Nancy or determine where she is. The condition of the remains also provides an important part of what authorities know about the discovery. Our sources describe them as bleached white bones that have been in the area for a long time. The bones were not described as newly exposed remains. Instead, they were characterized as having been there for an extended period, with their appearance reflecting the passage of time and exposure to the desert environment. That description further separates the discovery from any conclusion that these are remains connected to the current search for Nancy Guthrie. Bleached white bones occur when ultraviolet rays from the sun break down the organic components of the bones, resulting in a loss of color and turning them white. That explanation is part of the information surrounding the remains and helps describe why the bones were found in that particular condition. The white appearance is therefore consistent with the bones having been exposed for a long time. While the condition of the bones helps investigators understand what they found, it does not create a connection to Guthrie. The available information remains clear that the remains are definitively not Nancy Guthrie. The discovery, then, does not change the central situation facing investigators. Authorities are still searching for answers about Nancy Guthrie, and the remains found in the desert have not provided those answers. There is still no indication from the information provided that the bones are hers. Instead, investigators have determined that the remains belong to someone other than Guthrie, leaving the search for her unresolved. That means the discovery may have appeared at first to be potentially significant to the case, but it ultimately does not bring authorities closer to locating Nancy. There is also another major point that remains unchanged. Our sources say there are still no leads in capturing Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers. That means law enforcement has not yet reached the point where it can identify and apprehend the people believed to be responsible for her disappearance. The search for those responsible remains ongoing, and the discovery of the bones has not produced a breakthrough on that front. Investigators therefore continue to face the same central questions about who took Guthrie, where she is, and where her remains might be.